Kwa majina yangu naitwa Frederick Ochieng kutoka Nyamware Village. Nafanya hii kazi ya uvuvi. Hii kazi nilifanya karibu 10 years from now. Wakati hyacinth ilikuwa nyingi, tuko na shida juu tuko na ngumu kuweka neti kwa maji juu hyacinth inako juu ya maji. Hiyo ni shida moja. Shida ya pili, unaona hata ukienda kuvua mbali huwezi rudi huku salama juu hyacinth unaweza kuzuia, huwezi kuingia kwa beach. Sasa unaweza lala hata kwa maji. Mimi naona biashara pia imeharibika wakati hyacinth iko hapa. Juu wavuvi ndio wametoa samaki hapa wanapeleka kwa beach. Wakati hyacinth iko hapa tuko na shida, hata samaki afike hapo pale ni noma sana.
History is telling us that water hyacinth first was detected in Lake Victoria in the early 80s, and by mid-90s, water hyacinth had invaded most parts of Lake Victoria, Kenya and Uganda. And this is the moment that even navigation had become a problem. Access to fisheries in Lake Victoria had become a serious challenge, and this went on up to around 97, 98 during the El Nino. And at this time, again, the multiplication slowed down a bit. This could be strongly associated with the much flow in of water that was diluting the nitrogen and phosphorus and thus not allowing the water hyacinth to bloom and multiply as fast as it was before. The coverage of the water hyacinth in the lake varies from position to position and from time to time, because water hyacinth is a floating aquatic macrophyte, aquatic plant, and so its location is dependent on the winds. But within the Kenyan Gulf, for instance, you would have even up to 30% coverage, and that can have quite a significant effect in terms of navigation, in terms of fishery, and any other associated activities in the lake. The government of Kenya has put a lot of effort, of course, working with the other interested stakeholders, including the World Bank. The USAID have put a lot of effort. Of course, the World Bank has put in a lot of financial support in terms of controlling water hyacinth in Lake Victoria through Lake Victoria Environment Management Program. And the USAID has also contributed significantly. And we know Calro has had a laboratory in Kisumu where they've been mass multiplying the water hyacinth weevil, which was introduced to the lake as a biological control to the multiplication of the water hyacinth. And this worked very well. And the government is still engaging highly in research to see how best to control this. But then we say if there are other benefits that we can get from water hyacinth and promote our economy, then we don't look at water hyacinth negatively, but we begin looking at it positively and knowing that there's something better it can do apart from managing the water quality. Then we can have the water hyacinth that is becoming a menace harvested and processed into a product. Then now we can make economic sense out of the water hyacinth.
I am a chemistry teacher, a chemistry high school teacher here in Kenya, and we have a project called Science and Engineering Fair, where students come up with various ideas. They try it in the lab, they develop it with their teachers and present it for a competition, which starts from the sub-county up to national level. So in the year 2016, we came up with this idea in a secondary school laboratory, where I and a few students came up, tried it at experimental level. We got small sample, and we presented our idea up to national level. So as we were progressing from one level to another, we would get the comments from the judges. And when we came back home, we polished it and we decided that it can be a good opportunity for doing business. The water hyacinth is a menace in Lake Victoria. It has affected the community around this place for so long. And when we were starting our business, actually, our aim was not to solve the problem of water hyacinth. It was just a raw material that we have. But as we moved on with the business, we found that our business actually solved two problems. the water hyacinth managed in Lake Victoria, and also cooking energy poverty within the household. So I can say that using the water hyacinth from Lake Victoria help us to reduce the population of water hyacinth from the lake. It provides us with a cheaper source of raw material to produce our bioethanol fuel, which benefit the local community who has all along been depending on firewood, kerosene, and charcoal to cook their food. So it has been a problem here. The government has tried to solve it for so many years. Billions of money has been spent to eradicate the water hyacinth unsuccessfully. So we think that when we use it as a raw material to produce a product which is consumed at the community level, then we are solving the two problems. We are eradicating water hyacinth from Lake Victoria, and we are also reducing the energy poverty, which is a big problem in this community. Our process, our model is somehow a simple model, but a little bit complex. The activity starts by the lake when we harvest the raw materials. We hire the boats, we go chop the water hyacinth from the lake, we process them, we remove the roots and the leaves, we leave them at the lake level. Then we hire the trucks that transport them to the workshop here. Once we have our raw materials in the workshop here, we have some pre-treatment activities. Our production technicians pre-process them. We convert the cellulose in water hyacinth into soluble sugars. From that, we conduct the process of anaerobic respiration. We ferment. After we fermented, we do the distillations. Once we are done with the distillation, we blend our ethanol into cooking fuel by adding some organic chemicals in it.
Bioethanol nimekuwa nikitumia kwa muda wa wiki moja sasa. Ni mzuri sana kutumia. Wenye hawatumii bioethanol wanatumia kuni na makaa. Na changamoto zenye wanapitia ni hiyo harufu ya makaa ina affect. Kwanza kama wako na watoto kwa nyumba, hiyo harufu ya makaa si mzuri na mtoto. Because harufu ya makaa inatokana na carbon dioxide.
Mate. Kama moto yote, yote.
Alafu kuni iko na moshi mingi. Huwezi pika nayo ndani ya nyumba. Saa zingine ukipika nayo nje, mvua inaweza kuja na you can stop the cooking just because the rain interfere na kila kitu. Bei ya ethanol ni cheaper. Unainunua 1 liter at 130 shillings. Na makaa per week unanunua at 50 shillings, 1 tin. Na hiyo 1 tin unaweza pata unatumia for only that day. Kutumia kupika ugali, uongeze, upike mboga, uongeze, uchemshie mtoto maziwa. Bioethanol is cheap.
I must say this is a business that I got into by mistake. I was introduced to briquettes by my son, and he told me this was an alternative source of clean cooking fuel instead of charcoal. And it got me excited because when I looked around in the rural area where I'm staying, everybody either cooks with charcoal or firewood. And I got excited, but my excitement was short-lived because I did not have any knowledge, I did not have anyone to ask any questions. So my experiments all backfired and my trials went bad. So when I later on realized the mistakes that I was making and I was using the wrong cook stoves for the wrong briquettes, I really sympathized with every other woman in the rural community, because in the rural you find that many people, many women are not educated, they have not been to school, and I really wondered if there's no one to explain to them and to tell them the alternatives of modern cooking methods that are available to them, then we are going to lose more women and children to smoke emissions and in premature deaths. So this is why I got very interested to share my knowledge and to really explain to women and show them the alternatives that there are available for them in cooking, so that they cannot continue suffering in the smoke and cooking with the inefficient stoves. And that is why I founded Nyalore Impact, to educate and empower more women, to be more knowledgeable, to be more informed of the modern cooking methods that are available today. If we were to grow the company and the organization, we would be able to invest in the dispensers, and this will reduce the cost of even the bioethanol fuel itself, in that we will reduce the packaging costs, because then they use the dispensers where they go with their container, the initial container that they bought with. Once it's empty, they can use the same container to go back and refill it. So it reduces the cost of transportation on our side. It also reduces the cost of distributing, and it reduces the cost to the end consumer, because now they can be able to access the fuel anytime, more closely to them, and also without having to pay for the packaging bottles. Currently, there is not much opportunity for marketing bioethanol locally, and that is why we partnered with East Africa, who are the producers of the bioethanol fuel. We collaborate a lot with East Africa to be able to find right models in marketing that can help them sell more volumes as we distribute their product. Many times we find that not a lot of attention is paid to local solutions. And I believe our partner has put in a lot of effort to find a local solution to a local problem. And even as we offer solutions in clean cooking, it is also best that we can offer economic empowerment for the local community. So we find that the vision and the mission of East Africa is the same as Nyalore Impact, and that is why we partner together to see how we can help our local communities not just get clean cooking fuels and solve their energy poverty, but also to solve their economic poverty, because that way then we are using one stone to kill two birds, and which improves the life of everybody in the rural community.
University has several mandates. We have teaching, research, and community outreach. So in terms of, with respect to this East Africa, it is within our community, and therefore we are doing a lot of community outreach with them. Specifically, a number of the organization members were our students. That brought that bond. Secondly, we have wrote several proposals. Some we have been funded, others were not so lucky. But in essence, we are basically capacity building that youth group to uplift the operations. Specifically, we are to increase their production capacity. We are also to look at the operations to optimize the conditions of producing the bioethanol. You know, fermentation is a very delicate process. And then we, being very young people in that organization, so we have a purpose to give them even business skills, managerial skills, and also train them on how to operate the bioethanol production process. In the production of bioethanol, there is always one big challenge. They call it waste. We don't term it as waste. We call it as core products, and this is the reason. When you do fermentation, there is biomass that is left over. This can be utilized in several ways. They can be used as soil amendment materials, and we intend to do that. That's the next phase of our work. We intend also to make activated carbon. Right now, I'm not so sure if anybody is doing that in Kenya. Now, the bit that cannot really degrade in the soil very fast, we are going to use them as briquettes, compact them, and use them as firewood. Now, before it is really gotten rid of, we also intend to decompose it further. And when we decompose it, we make biogas from it. And the biogas has several uses. Biogas can also be used for cooking. It can also be methylated to make methanol. And methanol is another product which is really in demand. Biogas can also be used to fire even generators. You know, we can get electricity from that. Okay? So really, the so-called waste from bioethanol processes is not a waste. Actually, these are additional benefits. We, as a university and as a research team, we are not only restricting our contribution to SACE to East Africa. The moment we have capacity built them, we are going to have policy briefs to the government and to the local governments also. That's national government and local governments. And we are going to publish this. And as I said, there are several people who already have interests. And, you know, as an academician, our pleasure is to disseminate this knowledge. And that's what we are going to do. We are doing it, and we'll continue doing it.
Kenya is targeting by 2030 to go fully renewable on renewable energy. So whatever CIST is doing is also part of the renewable energy, and it's something that it's helping the Kenyan government at the grassroots level to go fully on the renewable energy sector by 2030. This is not only something that will help this particular region, but Kenya as a whole and Africa as a whole, because you find that in Africa, we rely on other sources of energy like charcoal and firewood, which is basically cutting down the trees to produce the energy. So with CIST coming in with bioethanol, it is something that will help Africa, it will help Kenya as a whole to tackle the climate issue and environmental issue. As a climate ambassador in Kenya, I work basically on creating awareness at the grassroots level on climate change, working also on policies that help the government to tackle climate change, especially on mitigation and adaptation measures. Yeah. The future of East Africa is well defined. Currently, we are producing 600 liters per day. Within 1 year, we want to upscale that to 1,250 liters per day. We are constructing laboratory so that will help us to monitor the quality of raw materials coming in and the quality of the final product. Within the 5 years, we want to see ourselves producing 12,000 liters of bioethanol fuel per day, but our long-term objective, we want to produce 60,000 liters of bioethanol fuel per day. We are also going to look at the marketing model so that we can reduce the cost of packaging. We want to supply the ethanol dispensers to the local community so that every community member can access the bioethanol fuel. So we are working on upscaling the production as we also work on upscaling the market and ensuring that the market accessibility is efficient and the model is cost effective as much as possible.